Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two cousins who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Monica.
And Monica, how was your week?
Pretty good. For our visual listeners, that
Viewers is the word you're looking for.
for our viewers who actually watch the YouTube videos, I look a little bit different this week.
You look a little different every week, let's be honest.
That is very true. But this is like big noticeable. I have long hair. I got extensions done. I sat in a salon for 8 hours so I could feel pretty. And you know what? It paid off. So no mean comments. Thanks.
Whereas my hair might have looked nice at some point today, but it surely does not anymore.
I mean, that's me every day, even with extensions in now. If anything, I haven't dealt with long hair since I was a literal child. Like, I cut my hair and it used to be down to my ass, and then I chopped it off to.
I don't remember your hair ever being long.
It was super duper long, and then I chopped it off when I was 6 and donated it to Locks of Love. And I have not had long hair since then. So even it's not super, it's long compared to what I had, but it's not as long as Mary Kate's, where hers literally touches her ass. But I'm not used to having long hair, and I don't know how people deal with it and sleep with it and not get it in their mouth and everything.
We don't.
I feel sorry. And because now that I have long black hair, I really wanted to be Bailey Sarian, so that's why my face is beat today.
I just don't care.
I mostly don't, but we made a resolution to try and look like we cared.
I mean, no, I still did my makeup. I have eyebrows this week because there was one episode where I forgot to fill in my eyebrows, and Monica was like, "You look fine," and I was like, "Okay." But then I edited the video, and I was like, "No, I definitely have albino eyebrows."
Like me with serial killer eyebrows.
Also, my highlighter looks amazing today. But
I didn't even know.
Ooh.
Highlighter appreciation moment? I think yes. Look at that. Oh, wow. Wet skin? Yeah.
My week was rough.
Hey, do you want something to make you laugh?
Sure.
I got a curling iron and tried to use it, and because I'm an idiot, I burned my forehead.
No, my week was just long. But yesterday I got a massage and I got my nails done.
Ooh, I actually really love that color.
Thanks.
It gets Cinderella dress vibes, if it but in the blue that it is.
It's purple.
It looks. Am I colorblind?
I don't know, but it's lavender purple.
It could have just been the lighting that made it look blue, but I can also see it being lavender.
Yeah, no, it's purple with a glitter ombre.
Ooh, ombre on the nails. Look at you. Fancy bitch.
You know. But yeah.
I know we kind of sound not as enthusiastic as we normally do whenever we have a bad episode to talk about, but this week's episode is actually really very good.
Yeah, it is. I think it's because usually when the episode is garbage, the talking about our lives part is the only exciting part of the episode. But to this time, my life is not really that exciting.
Same. I was yeah, I got extensions put in, and I sat at my boyfriend's house all week.
Yeah, it worked. And then, yesterday I got a massage and got my nails done. But
we just both did self-care this week.
Yeah.
Go up. High five. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I also was very, very behind on work and did not watch this episode until 8:30 last night.
And I watched it an hour before you called me, and I almost called or text you about it, because I like doing it at night for me, because then I can have like all of it like fresh in my head like right away, because it's like by the time I'm done watching it, you're up and texting me, and then we're talking.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it keeps me like thinking about it, because most of the time it's very fucking forgetful. Like we were trying to figure out like our our Instagram post this week for the podcast, and I couldn't remember last week's episode to save my freaking life. I was like, what did you talk about?
Y'all, I'm about to call and put my friend on blast right now. And whenever he catches up and gets to this episode, he will know I'm talking about his Jamaican ass right now. This motherfucker, love you, Dell. He texted me last night and is telling me all about how our Instagram is so cool and it's so on brand and it's so great and it keeps him inspired, and I'm doing really good work on the Instagram, which validation, keep giving it to me, please. But then he tells me he didn't even realize there was a podcast attached to the Instagram. He thought I was just making these posts for nothing. So note to everyone out there, if you see a really dope post on Instagram and you like it, read the motherfucking caption.
Yes, do that.
Also, please don't judge me, because some of the captions are fucking garbage, because I cannot think of what to say.
I hear you're talking about the post. I'm over here like touching my hair like a fucking weirdo. But no, yeah, like Mary Kate really has been, because Mary Kate does all the editing for the podcast, like the Instagram page and the actual podcast. I just don't have the software to really do it or understand it. Mary Kate's more like versed in that. And
Which is, let me tell you, a year ago, didn't even know how to do this.
And like when we get together and we're actually in person, because we're gonna plan and edit, like we're planning like have our whole day be Saturday, where I'm like over there at noon and we're just recording, editing, fixing up our posts that we're gonna be doing for the week, and going through everything like that, so that when we like we're both able to understand it, even if she's the one physically sitting there and moving it around, I still want to be able to learn and understand the process that she goes through, so I'm also aware of everything. But I mean, like, and we can both have like creative input on everything. Like, like I said, like in podcasts, like episodes beforehand, when we're together, I think there's going to be a huge shift in how the podcast is run, how things are going to be just done, and how things are going to look, because we won't be on two complete opposite ends of the world trying to make a podcast work. And I think it'll be a lot more fun too. Like we have like I wanted I think I sent it to you, and you sent it to me in a TikTok about how people want to dress as like scene emo and bring it back and call it the Roaring 20s XD.
Yes.
And in all honesty, I wanted us to dress like that for an episode on the podcast. I think that'd be so much fun.
I don't fit into those clothes anymore.
How?
Do you think my body is shaped the same as it was 12 years ago?
I just always kind of see it the same. I don't really see a difference.
Yeah, no, in 2008, I was bulimic and weighed 100 pounds. I don't fit into those clothes anymore. My ass probably weighs 100 pounds right now.
Me, but instead of my ass, it's my tits, because I don't have an ass. Listen, I can have the thickest thighs on the planet, which I have some pretty ham hocks there, brother. But like, you see me from the front, I'm walking down, you're like, wow, she has to have a nice ass, and then I turn, and you're like, never mind that. Wall. Like, it's just, my waist is a catfish.
Yeah, there's this girl that I follow on TikTok who posted this TikTok about how God had a really sick sense of humor when he built her like a motherfucking whale and made her only attracted to men who are built like asparagus.
I don't like that.
Why? Because that's you?
Maybe.
Yeah. Fun fact, Monica really likes twinky, tiny, skinny boys.
Yeah, like if they're built like this pen, I'll crush it.
I mean, and let me tell you, I can get behind a good, skinny, emo boy. If anyone knows me in real life, they know that the absolute love of my life is a German pop star who I don't. When you're already 6'3" and you wear platform sneakers exclusively, and then you turn invisible when you go sideways, like that's his body type. But other than him,
You like hunky men.
I like men.
And then there's me where I'm like, listen, you got Tom Holland, you got Evan Peters. I like they're built, but they're also not.
I lied. There's one other exception to my rule of them being truly men, because I would also let Steven Tyler do anything he wanted to me.
There you go. Speaking of which, me and Mary Kate were having a conversation, talking about like that TikTok trend where it's like, oh, like Ariana Grande's your next, but as it goes on, it gets extremely weirder, like for your childhood crushes. So me and Mary Kate disclosed ours to one another. Now, there are two types of people in the world: Mary Kate and me. Um, where like there's like like a lot of girls are like that like emo boys or like are like gothic or whatever like emo, and alt girls, they like Danny Phantom and stuff like that, and like Victor from Corpse Bride. But when I was a child, my childhood crush, like one of my first childhood crushes besides Clay Aiken, was the Bone Daddy himself, Jack Skellington.
Um,
And this has described my type forever. And yes, this is my original Jack Skellington plush I had since I was 3 years old. He has slowly turned into Sally. I love my Jack.
Whereas my number one childhood crush um, was the Beast from Beauty and the Beast as a beast.
Yeah. And here, okay, I also had another epiphany the other day when I was talking to my friend Kate. We were talking about how, like, on TikTok, like, the bisexual, like, women who are bisexual, it's normally, they're attracted to the Fantastic Mr. Fox from Fantastic Mr. Fox. And it's because of the cottagecore, like, aesthetic or whatever. Fine. But then I'm like, but what about the alt bi girls? Like, what was their Fantastic Mr. Fox? Well, their Fantastic Mr. Fox is Victor from Corpse Bride, Emily from Corpse Bride, and this bitch. But I'm not bisexual, so I don't currently want to fuck Jack Skellington. I just thought he was cute when I was like 5.
I don't really know why you would even say the words fuck in the same sentence as Jack Skellington.
I don't know, man. Listen, I told you earlier, I don't word good. I can't. My head hurts. You hear that? That's the size of my little pea brain rattle inside my head.
Yeah, so um
Week of Hemlock Grove. We have a good episode on our hands.
we do. We actually do. But it's like really upsetting because here we are, episode 6. Good episode. God knows it is not going to stay good.
No. The Hemlock Grove doesn't do that, ever.
Also, I think there's only 3 people still alive at the end of this show.
Yeah. There's no way that there are certain characters that are making it out of this alive. One, I think it's going to be a pretty given with, especially with the severity that happens in this episode about one of the characters and what's going on with them. But
yeah, so nobody no, I was gonna say nobody dies in this episode, but that's not true.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of our 7 kind of like main characters that we're following at this moment, spoiler alert, not really, because I'm not going to tell you who of the 7, but facts, only 2 of them will survive. Good luck guessing which 2.
Kind of 2. 1 definitely. 2.
No, 2.
2 technically, but mentally no.
Oh, yes, no, right. 1.5.
1.5. But
I forgot that we figured that part out.
yeah. So have fun crying with us in about.
Yeah, no, I can guarantee that at least one of the podcast episodes I will be in tears.
Yeah, like we know kind of, because it's like with researching stuff, looking up at the IMDb page, and like we like look into stuff, we kind of can't help but getting spoiled on the amount of times characters are in episodes, or
which later in this podcast, when we are doing shows that one of us has seen
mm-hmm.
and one of us hasn't, it will make it so that like the person who already knows the ending will be exclusively responsible for anything that needs to be done on Google.
Yeah.
So like, that this doesn't happen.
Yes.
But
like I cannot wait for you to watch I can't wait for you to watch American Horror Story when you come home.
I can't wait for you to watch Twin Peaks.
It's gonna be so much fun. Here, we'll talk about this later, but we're gonna have to set up a way that we're going to do American Horror Story, because we could either do it episode by episode every season and like just pick it, like do a season, then to do another show, then do a season, then do another show, because we could, or we could just do one episode about one season, because you honestly could.
I know, but I don't like that.
That is fair.
I like being able to like actually talk about and digest and understand things.
That's fair. That is.
It's kind of like how when they made the Series of Unfortunate Events movie, I didn't hate it, but I was mad because there's so much that they could have done that they just didn't. Because like, let's be honest, Jim Carrey was actually great as Count Olaf, but like that's the last good thing I can say about that movie.
Then they made
the TV show, and it was phenomenal.
I love Neil Patrick Harris.
Well, no, I love Neil Patrick Harris too, and he was obviously amazing, but the thing that was phenomenal about it was that you could actually take the time to go into everything.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. And honestly, in American Horror Story, there is a lot to unpack in just one episode.
Yeah.
Especially like in the earlier seasons when it was really good. I'm sorry, I to anyone who's listening to this that watches American Horror Story, because if you're listening to this podcast, you probably watch American Horror Story. After season 5, it's shit. There's like season 8 kind of just fanfare, but every single season, I like 1985 though because I love the 80s, but it was just didn't hit it for me. The first 5 seasons, I think, storyline wise, would really get you. Like, I think those would be the ones that you'd be invested in, and not so much the ones afterwards. So
we'll see. We will.
There's a lot of plot twists and jumbled up stuff that I think would just like smack you on your ass, and you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I can't wait for you to watch Twin Peaks, because I have watched it multiple times and listened to multiple podcasts about it, and I still don't fully know what the fuck I just watched.
How long is Twin Peaks?
The original show was only 3 seasons, and then they had the Showtime reboot that was an extra season.
Okay. If you want, we could pick one of those to do, or did you want to do both?
Well, it's a continuation of the same story.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. It's not a reboot so much as it's the next season.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, no, and once you see it, you'll understand why. It makes sense.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But enough about things that are going to be exciting to do when we're done with this. Um, let's just bite the bullet and finish Hemlock Grove. We have now 3 episodes left.
No, we don't.
4 episodes. I'm getting told. We have 4 episodes left. 1 month left of watching this. 1 month. When we can do it. We're at the finish line.
It's the final countdown.
But I honestly it's gonna really suck because we all are expecting a really bad finale. That's how it's just been for this whole series. And like you were saying earlier, this episode was really good storytelling wise. Like you were pretty much side by side with the character. Like you were experiencing, I thinking the same emotions that one of the other characters were feeling throughout the whole throughout the whole episode. Because we're just like, this is not normal. Like this is just not right. And then we're also dealing with like the way that like everyone's storylines are coming to. It's kind of getting like towards to that like climax or like things are coming out, things are happening. There's going to be one last big hoorah, and which is pretty obvious for Hemlock Grove as this being the final season. But I'm just there are still some storylines that I think that would have had a way out, and you will probably hear us go on another tangent about Ader, at least I will be.
But also, just in case you're as confused as we are, no, Spivak has still not been in the show yet.
Exactly. And another thing is that also just because me and Mary Kate like do know who is gonna be passing away and dying in the show. We know some stuff about their death. We don't know how it comes to, how everything kind of we don't know how everything unfolds. We just know bare bones just from having to do research for the show. But so there will be probably tears shed. I probably won't look good for either like the last few episodes, depending upon when and where they go. But it's gonna be rough to watch it because like a lot of these characters, I'm pretty sure almost every character in here like we have appreciated for who like what they were and what they stood for.
Yeah, I don't think anybody that's left alive will I like not care. Like when Norman died, I literally didn't care.
Yes. Like, see, I kind of did, but at the same time, I kind of didn't because I was in such a conflicting place with Olivia.
Yeah.
Whereas you were very, yes, Olivia, fuck Norman.
I was so mad.
Anyway, once again, we've done what we always do. Leave Hemlock Grove and start talking about Twilight again.
Who knows how much of that is even going to be in there because editing. So, Hemlock Grove, season 3, episode was entitled Pendant. It came out on October 23rd, 2015, and it was rated 7.5 stars. It was written by Peter Blake, who is a returning author, and it was directed by Jim O'Hanlon, who is a British director who's been nominated for 2 BAFTAs. He directed all the usual, like, boring British stuff like Coronation Street, Casualty. He directed a lot of the OG Shameless. Yeah, the British one, not the American one. And then, but he also did a bunch of British like horror, comedy, drama type stuff, like The Deep, In the Flesh, and Chasing Shadows. So pretty decent director, and I will say I definitely liked the direction of this episode better than a lot of the other ones we've seen. Just like the way things were done was very good.
I really think like in this episode, the writer and director it felt like they were actually communicating and how they wanted this episode to be done and how they wanted to be split up, how they wanted it to come to a closing. It made sense. It was very understanding and clear in a sense that at the end, when you realized everything, it was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So well done. Also, just a fun fact that Monica and I discovered in researching this morning, the reason why Piranha 2 was so important for no reason last episode was because the author of Hemlock Grove Season 3, Episode 5, Charles H. Egley, also was the original screenwriter of Piranha 2.
And we looked at some screen snippets, looked at some pictures. Man, did that suck. There's literally, if you look up Piranha 2 and you go to the images, you will see a picture of two people hanky-pankying under the sea, not on the shore.
I don't think they're under the water. They're just still wearing scuba gear.
It looks like they're underwater.
They've got snorkeling masks on, but it looks like they're in a cave. I don't know. It's weird, but also it's very naked.
Yeah, it's like your typical 80s.
Really, if you have your Google's image safe search on, it will not show up.
No. You see a nipple. But the thing is that like it is like a very stereotypical 80s B horror movie. It's like nudity and really shitty gore, really shitty storyline. It's just plain cuts like your normal ones. Like the ones that you're like you love them because they're so bad type of deal. And like for me that one's Trick or Treat, but that's also not bad. Like I am not going to sit there and say Trick or Treat is a bad movie. It's a great movie, but it's one of those B horror movies that's a cult classic because you find yourself laughing through it more than actually getting scared by it.
Which is why for a very long time James Cameron claimed nothing to do with Piranha 2. He didn't want it to be associated with him at all until it got an awkward, weird cult following, and then he was like, yeah, fine, I directed it.
Yeah. So if you're one of those people who have a weird cult following to the Piranha series and Piranha 3D and Piranha 3 Double D, so the tits are right in your face, I love that for you. I'm glad that you chose that life path, and I'll pray for you when I go to bed tonight. Now it's time to pray for the writers of the show and hope that they don't fuck us over, which they will.
Our blurb says, as Olivia's condition worsens, she drops a bombshell on Roman. The wolf pack shuns Peter, who struggles to hide the truth about Andreas from Destiny.
And that is a very good blurb this week. I like how as the series has gotten worse, the blurbs have gotten better.
Yeah. And we're going to attempt to do things the way we did last week, where we, instead of going scene by scene, we break things down. Character plot line.
Which I think helps with the storytelling, at least for me and Mary Kate to like really digest it. So we're not bouncing back all over the place. Because I know it can get a little messy. Yeah. And like, there was this thing, but there was also this thing that influenced this thing.
And it's hard. Like, in some shows, it's easier to follow because you have one main character and you're just following their journey. But in shows that have like 3 or 4 main characters and have completely non-interconnected storylines, it's really hard to analyze them chronologically.
Yeah. And like there will be some parts that like, because in this episode a few of the characters like will interchange with one another, but it's more so in whose storyline does it fall into heavier, and that's where we'll discuss that
And I'm sure
situation.
like when we get to like the season finale or the second to last episode when plot lines are converging, it'll be less separated. But like I think this episode there were 5 distinct storylines with very little crossover. So we're gonna take them one at a time.
And who better to start off than our lovingly weird incest family couple thing, Roman and Annie.
So Roman's first scene is in Hemlock Grove. No, of course it's in Hemlock Grove. That's not what I meant to say at all. It's in the White Tower.
There you go.
Words. And he's talking to Price. And Price admits that he lied, that he knows more, and that he's doing more research, but that Olivia is blackmailing him. And so he had to lie to Roman. And Price seems very much back to his old self. He's coherent and not shaky, and it's wonderful to see. But in that scene, Price tells Roman the truth about Olivia and her cancer and the fact that she is already at the level of needing to hunt other oop here.
Yeah. When he discloses that, we also find out that Olivia also has about a month, if not less, to live. And with Roman finding this out, obviously Roman's going to be like ecstatic. And honestly, Price is kind of too. Price is at a point where he's just fed up with her bullshit, fed up with her blackmailing him into getting him to do what she wants. And he like realizes that he made a mistake, obviously not telling Roman the truth. And honestly, when we like discuss what goes on with Price this episode, you can genuinely see that he is changed. Like his hair is long, but it's not disheveled. It's not having like this.
Hair is long, but it is brushed.
Yes, he is not having the sweats every time he walks. And Roman takes this news quite nicely, but like, and it feels like Roman also wasn't like sensitive Roman, where he's like so like off the bat, like he was like, well, he's like, we need to talk, and he's like, what about me not telling you about that I gave your mom information? So Price already knew what this conversation was going to be about, and he apologized, and Roman was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
So Roman, that was actually a very good scene for the two of them, and now we finally get to see where Price's true intentions and alliances are. Finally,
I think Price, just the truth is his goal.
Exactly.
And I think with all the Spivak demon Nazi stuff that he's been discovering, it's definitely pushing him towards being Team Roman, not necessarily because he has any emotional connection to Roman or Olivia or whatever, but because helping Roman will find the truth better than helping Olivia.
Exactly, because we all know Roman really is doing this because he wants his daughter back to protect her, and Olivia has ulterior motives in every decision she has made in this show. Every single one.
She wants Nadia back too, but she wants Nadia back to make sure that Nadia turns.
Exactly. But after this happens, we go to later on. There will be a scene that will involve Destiny and Peter and Andreas, his funeral.
Well, so one of the big points of this episode is Andreas's funeral. And we will talk more about obviously the details of the funeral when we get to the Peter Destiny storyline, but Annie and Roman both come to the funeral and they sit together, but it's also very clear that like
Annie doesn't.
There's still tension.
Yeah.
And Roman's like, what did I do wrong? And she's like, nothing. I've got some stuff I need to figure out. So Roman tries to be a chivalrous gentleman to win her over and like shows up at her hotel room with like 3 dozen roses and is like, I'm going to win your love. And
But
then
here, can I say one thing before we get to this? I know I'm not Bill Skarsgård's half sister. So he ever did that to me, yes, woo me away. Take me away, please. Because that was a beautiful sight. And like in all honesty, like it's so weird because Roman has never interacted with a girl on the show like this before. Like we have never caught Roman being a full out simp, besides for his other sister, Letha. But we have not caught him being a full out like simp wanting to be like a chivalrous man, like a knight in shining armor type of deal. He came out like this was just like so off radar for Roman to fight for something like this, like to fight for something like love. Like even with Miranda, it was like all half-ass bullshit.
Well,
And
but
like
he never loved Miranda. He was fighting for Miranda to stay to take care of Nadia because he didn't know how. The only person he's ever fought this hard for before is Peter.
facts. And it's just it's kind of sweet to see it, but then you remember, oh, that's
No,
sister.
I mean, from Roman's point, like, I have a note when they were fighting at the funeral, and I was like, Roman, leave her alone. She's your sister. But he doesn't know. And that's what makes me kind of mad at Annie, because she knew the whole time.
Yes.
Roman doesn't know. Roman finds this girl who's like intensely interested in him and also understands his pain and like knows the struggle he goes through. And of course he's in love with her. She's beautiful. And she gets him in a way that nobody else ever has before.
Mm-hmm.
So duh, he's in love with her. So really it's her fault.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, he's trying to win her over and tell her how much he loves her and give her these flowers. And then Olivia walks in. And an important Olivia note in this scene is that she has weird Opier heat vision X-ray thing like we saw the very first time we saw this virus thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she sees them as little red feeding blobs. But she walks in and she's like, you two know each other? And Roman's like, you two know each other?
But here's the thing: when Olivia walks in at first, Roman literally puts Annie right behind him because he knows what she is, like
Yeah.
what Olivia.
He's trying to protect Annie from getting eaten by the cancer virus.
And that's why I think Roman thinks that she's there.
Yeah.
In the first like 3 seconds that she's in there, and then until she says, "You guys know each other," and then he was like, "You know each other," and she was like, "You know, this shit was." She's like, "First you had to go do it with Letha, now with her." He's like, "But at least with."
He said, "You're a real stick man, fucking two of your sisters, and at least this one you can't blame on me." And then she throws her family portrait of her and her sister from back in Romania down on the bed and storms out.
And then Roman just like looks at her and like he has like water in his eyes because he's in love with his sister again, and then walks out. Just dips, leaves. But then nothing else really happens with Annie and Roman until
much later in the episode, like almost toward the end.
And Annie comes over to explain herself to Roman as to why she didn't say anything, and she's just like, I had a weak moment back at the blood bank, blah blah blah. He was like,
and he's like, no, the fuck you didn't.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, fine, my feelings for you are complicated.
Like, you went in here knowing that he was your brother, and you're like, look, 9,000, I think yes. Like, come on, bitch.
And then Roman says some really, really not okay things to say to a woman. A, to say to your sister. B,
to say in general. C.
Like, he was like, yeah, keep saying sorry, but apologizing is not what your mouth is good for.
Yeah. And then he goes up to her and says, it's a damn shame you're my sister, cause that coochie be fire. He didn't say it like that. He was like, that coochie be mighty fine.
He said that was,
and I was like,
pussy. And I was like,
I was like, She was like, then what? The only way for you to forgive my apology is for me to fuck you? And he was like, oh no, maybe. And then they start to fuck.
And then she was, no, but at first I was very concerned because he was like, basically, and then he like kind of like attacked her and started making out with her. And she like pulled away and was like, you're a fucking arrogant prick, and like slapped him. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to rape her. But no, she was definitely involved. It was consensual incest.
Consensual incest. So, what I've gathered from this show, Mary Kay has already heard me gripe about this 3 times before we started recording. Incest unconsensually, incest consensually, and grooming. So like this show just fucking no holds barred with everything, man.
But also like it wasn't just that they were having sex. They were having like very angry, aggressive, like
hate sex.
Like they were biting each other. It was like not.
I was watching it with subtitles, and literally a subtitle came up saying Roman yells, and I'm like,
but like there was like biting and slamming, and I was like, thank God I didn't watch it at work this week.
There you go.
It was, whew.
It was something else. Literally would have loved if that was not his sister.
Right.
It's just the knowing. Like the scene itself wasn't bad. Like we've seen sex scenes.
The scene itself wasn't bad in the graphicness. The scene itself was bad because like
it's their sister, man.
The way he spoke to her to rile her up to get this to happen after knowing that they're related now makes him just as bad as her. Because before, when she was knowing and he wasn't, you could feel empathy for him.
Yeah.
Now you can't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is all of Annie and Roman this episode. But at least he knows.
Yeah, at least he knows, and I guess he's cool with boning his sister. You know, to each their own, I guess. But that's all I can say. It was consensual this time. I hate that was a sentence I said. Anyway, on to the next problematic storyline. Shelly. Poor girl. This poor girl. Okay, listen. I am going to. I want to go.
Before you get upset, let's talk about the good thing. So Shelly's story starts with she's hanging out with her peeps at the Rooster Poot, and they get the Plankenstein video to 500,000 views, and they're talking about monetizing it, and they're all trying to like make merch for Shelly, and she's like, I don't even know what happened, I just fell down, and they were like, you're so cool. And then her friend painted her a whole mural in her room to show how cool she is, and she's got friends, and it's like, yes, Shelly is thriving.
Yes. Until not really until. It's just a reminder. So we go to Ader.
Well, so Shelly and all her friends are hanging out, and they are like, it's lunchtime, which means it's story time. Ader, tell us a story.
So Ader tells a story of an interracial couple that was actually a Supreme Court case that actually did change being able to marry outside of
he told the story of the loving couple, and like I feel like everybody knows the story at this point. It's very, very famous. If you're in America, if you're in America and you haven't learned about the loving couple, you need a better education. But yes.
So he tells the story and it gives you that inkling, that unsettling feeling with what we have talked about last week. This was never said in the episode. This is just the vibe that came from what was said, and why he was telling the story, I think, was more significant. It was talking about the law keeping two people that were in love separated, so they fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court and they won it.
And then he was talking about how like some people go their whole lives without understanding love, but like when you start to love someone, you're like not empty or broken or separated anymore. And I was like, oh, so he's a creep and he moves way too fucking fast. Great.
And I swear to God, this is like one of the very first things I told Mary Kate when she called me. I was like, I swear to God, if the writers of the show, the character on its own, are trying to use an interracial couple winning a case to be together, to be with an underage girl, that is purely disgusting. To push that. Whether that is the case or not, and whether that was the point of that story or not, and he was just telling a story about two people that were in love and fought to be in love. It's still weird in the context of the situation that they're in. Whereas, yes, Shelley, if what they said was true, and like we've discussed, the timeline of the show makes no goddamn sense. They said that she had a month until she could be on her own and away from Olivia, and that how we interpreted it was that's when she turns 18 and she doesn't need to have a parental guardian anymore. So, and if that's the case, why are you telling this specific story about fighting to be in love?
Like there's so many real life stories of couples who overcame things or who just showed that like love makes you a better person. Like
Juliet, for Christ's sakes, if you want.
I said real life people.
Oh, true.
So, but like, there's plenty of real life people that showed that like love can help you feel not empty.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. But to do one that was about fighting people saying that they weren't supposed to be together was very
just whether that was intentional or not.
I don't see how it could be anything but intentional.
Exactly. And like I was saying, because I don't know for sure whether it is or wasn't, you are still excusing this.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. This, like, I feel like it's also, if you're like, oh, the thing is, a lot of younger girls, like I was 8 when I was into Twilight. You see enough, and this was like in the hype, not in the hype. This is kind of when Twilight was dying. This came out like it started a year after the last Twilight came out.
Yeah.
So like I mean, like vampires and werewolves were still a big thing. We had Vampire Diaries on the air, like so, and a lot of girls my age who were in love with Twilight and who are now like between the ages of 11 to 13 at this point, seeing the having it be romanticized that this is okay is not okay.
Yeah.
And like I said before, it's not in the book. It wasn't written in the book. Even if it was written in the book, it would still have been problematic.
For sure.
They made that decision to choose this storyline for this character when they should not have done that in general. It just should not have happened. Whether on how it ends or not, this storyline just shouldn't. He should have just been a friend and someone to help her realize her self-worth.
Yeah.
I think if a character like that, there would be zero issue. But to change it to make it be a romantic connection for Shelley, it just is not. It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
So Shelley also feels overwhelmed by this and she leaves. And she goes to Roman's house. And she's going to go to Roman to ask advice. But Roman, this scene is post finding out about Annie, pre-fucking Annie.
Yes.
So he's clearly emotionally unhinged. And he just starts yelling about how their mom is a horrible see you next Tuesday and it's going to be fine for him and Shelley because she's going to be dead soon. And he's just being like really...
He's being Olivia.
He's being nasty, yeah. And Shelley straight up tells him, she's like, I came here to talk to somebody I trust. I could have got this shit from mom.
Yeah.
And Roman's like, you can't leave. And she's like, you can't tell me what to do.
And it upsets the both of us even further because if Shelley was going there on the pretense of this relationship with Ader, is it right or not? And she would have talked to Roman about it and could have gotten some clarity to keep her away from it, is gone. Now it's gone now.
So, sorry. So then because that didn't work out, she goes back to the Rooster Poot, and I just
Nader is.
realized the significance of one of the lines in this scene with her and Ada, and now I'm angry.
I'll let you talk about it because I don't know. But all I'm gonna say before you get into it is that when she goes back to her room, guess who's sitting in her bed? Fucking Nader.
Oh, you're going to be very angry when I say what I have to say. So she goes back, and Ador is talking about how if the sun was made of graffiti paint, this is what it would look like. The sign that Shelly's friend made for her in the room. And Shelly says, it really is a shame that something this beautiful could be seen as illegal.
I need to know the address of the fucking writers of the show. Stop pretending that this is a joke. Like,
Yeah,
and
she's talking about the graffiti, but in the context of what's going on in the show, that is infuriating.
And I don't want to hear people commenting saying that we're reading too much into this, blah, blah, blah. Regardless if we are and if it's intentional or not, the way that they are, first of all, there is a grooming situation going on. There's no doubt that Chili is an underage. She's a child still, technically. He is a 38-year-old man.
Yeah, honestly, even if she's over 18, even if she is 18 years old, she is not, and I hate to say this because it's not fair, but she's not capable. She's never been given any kind of autonomy of herself because of how she is. And so between Olivia and Price and Roman, she's always been treated like a baby. And Roman even said something to her that was really awful about how they said something about Olivia being as ugly as what Shelly has to look at in the mirror on her. And Shelly was like, are you calling me ugly? And he's like, that's not how I meant it. And she's like, but that's what you said. Like, she doesn't have the ability to think and make rational human adult decisions because even if she was 18, you as a human being cannot make rational human adult decisions until you're 24, brain science, and B, because she's been coddled her whole life between Norman and Price and Olivia, she's never been given any kind of ability to choose for herself. So whether she's 17, 18, 25, it doesn't matter. She's in a position of naivety, and this man is taking full ass advantage of that.
Exactly. And it's even more pissy because even like if she is still technically 17, like that's a legal issue.
Yeah.
Whereas if she was 18 and then we're just mad because he's playing off the naivety of her and that's just a fucking dick.
Like, the thing is, if she's 17, it's straight illegal. If she's 18, it's morally gray. But either way, we have every right to be upset about it.
Yes. And to think that if you sit in the comments and you're mad, like, oh, you're looking too much, like I said, you're looking too much into this, blah, blah, blah.
And no one has done that. No one has attacked us about being this. We just, in the world of cancel culture and then people getting mad about cancel culture, I can only assume that somebody's going to watch this and think that we are being too aggressive.
Yes, but if you're sitting there and you're looking at a story and you are literally romanticizing grooming, that is a bad thing to do.
It's honestly, maybe we are looking too much into this, but that's what this podcast is. It's our job to look in too much into everything.
Exactly. And I think especially when it comes to situations like this, where kids are getting groomed, or whether she's 18 because we don't fucking know if she technically is yet or not, the fact that he's still taking advantage of someone who is very naive and has a childlike mentality and a way of like looking at the world because she, like Mary Kate had said, has been coddled and treated as such for her whole life. That could be, like she said, that's morally gray. Like, you are still doing a bad thing, but at least it's not illegal.
Right. And also, I'm a teacher and a victim of pedophilic grooming as a child. So I'm going to be very upset about this. End of story.
Yeah. Like, there's no way of making this like a funny thing. And
No.
it's just really sad because like I feel like when we have to deal with Ader, a character who we thought would have been really good for Shelley.
I mean, I have like hearts around his name in his first episode. I was obsessed with him. And
it just fell apart very quickly. And I think that the writers definitely went the wrong way with his character. I think he should have just been someone to morally help Shelley get through this.
There's already so much dark shit happening. Why does it just, it's just very much, it's Virgo too much, Jean, let me tell you. Because there's already so much dark going on that it's not going to hurt your show to have one character that isn't being fucked over.
Yeah. And I sadly I think it's not so much them not wanting to fuck over a character. I think it's the shock value and knowing that it's not getting renewed for another season. So they're like, fuck it. Let's do all the terrible things that we can get out of this.
They're already going to kill everyone. Why do they need to also be just horrible?
I don't know. I don't see that as a fair thing for any of the characters in the show, especially Shelley. Shelley has gotten fucked over in every season. And to make it like fucked over in almost every single way, in a legal way. She was accused of being a murderer. Then she was on the run and then had to go through a trial at the very beginning of the season. And now she's part of a predator grooming pedophile thing. And it's terrible. Like, she's going through, I think, she could go through more psychological damage because of the shit that she's gone through.
I mean, but also, like, props to Malin Martin, who plays Shelley, because she's the only person on this entire show to be nominated for any kind of acting award.
As she should.
For this show. So
it was for the season, right?
It was in 2015, so I don't know. I think it might have been for season 2 because this show didn't come out till the end of 2015, so Emmys would have been earlier. So it would have been for season 2 actually.
Okay.
But yeah.
You did good in season 2 too.
Yeah. So
Exactly. I just feel bad because I feel like unless Ader dies, that will be a death that you see me rejoice.
I kind of want to find out now. Do
you want to look it up?
I'm going to look up if he dies. Honestly, I don't even care if I spoil this. I hope he does.
Same. And I want to know how.
Sorry, anyone who wants to be spoiler free. I don't.
And I need to know how. Nope. Wait, are we cutting this or are we keeping it in?
Nope. He does not die.
So now away from, I want to say less depressing matters, but not really. But not as legally, no, that's also a lie. Not as uncomfortable depressing matters. This whole show's depressing. Why am I even trying to save it?
Yeah, let's just go to the next storyline.
Yeah. Also, Fern is more noticeable now. Look at that. I'm so cute.
Real pink.
Yeah.
So the episode actually opens with police talking to Destiny and Peter because they are investigating Andreas's death because Destiny's like, I thought it was a mugging, and the police are like, no, like the caliber of bullet and the location of the wound and the like body being moved post-mortem, there's no way it was just a mugging. So they're investigating, which of course is making Peter really anxious.
Real quick, shout out to the girl Bailey. Validity is what happens when the blood pools at the
We already talked about this.
We have talked about this. We talked about it, I think, last week.
We talked about it when we looked at the morgue episode.
Oh, yes. So if which honestly Peter and Mom probably don't listen to serial killer crime documentary podcasts. So they might not know about validity, but like we said before, when a body is moved post-mortem, that's how police and detectives can tell if a body died where it was found, or
yeah, and also the fact that he was left alone in a parking lot with absolutely nothing around him, including no gunshot residue, no
yes,
anything. Like it just, of course, yeah.
it just a lot of it wasn't really wouldn't have added up.
But also, like, we're talking about like the mob.
Yeah,
So of course, nobody, the mob never leaves the body where they shot it,
exactly.
because that's just not how that works. But anyway, so Destiny's already like mad suspicious because nothing is matching like what Peter has said. And then she's like, none of his friends have come to check on me. Like, I don't get it. So Peter goes to the boys and he's like, listen, you need to go to the funeral. And they're like, fuck no. He's a traitor and he got our men killed. And, you know, the war is over now. Let's just leave it alone. And Peter's like, yeah, but like if you don't go, Destiny's gonna know something's up. And only one of the guys comes to the funeral.
But honestly isn't necessarily the best thing because during the funeral, like they come in, Peter.
Before, the one thing that I wanted to, the note that I have about the scene with the guys, is that poor Destiny, because like, so Nick and Bajram are the two guys who were supposedly, Andres' his best friends. Bajram is the one who ends up coming to the funeral. But what Peter's saying is like, you have to come to the funeral because like, you know what Destiny's capable of. And Nick goes, what, a psychic who didn't know her fiance was fucking every girl in the Croatian mob? Yeah, I'm really scared of her powers. I was like, ouch.
Damn. Like she just lost her really shitty fiance, but she still lost someone that she believed that loved her as much as she loved him. And that's why you don't marry someone that you know for 2 months.
Right.
That's what I said.
So then there's the funeral, and Destiny's obviously upset because no one's there. Um, and the thing about the funeral is that Peter gets up to talk, and motherfucker didn't even sound sad.
Yeah.
It was the worst eulogy ever, and I was like, if I was Destiny, I'd be straight pissed.
Here's the thing. I think Peter should have put on the theatrics to warrant off the suspicion coming off from Destiny. But I also could see how conflicting it would be for him to sit up there and stand there and say how much of a great man and how much he loved Destiny and wanted all this stuff with Destiny when he himself had evidence and proof that like he just didn't. So him to try and pretend it was probably a lot harder than it would have been. And I think I think it's portrayed in that scene because it shows how hard.
No. Landon did an amazing job acting as Peter. Peter, the character, did a fucking shit job of acting like he gave any cares at that funeral.
Yes. And I think it was intentional, whether it was good or not. I think it was intentional. But I mean, like Peter is really in a rock and a hard place. Like I honestly can't see how Destiny is never going to not know about that.
Yeah.
And later, like in a few scenes when we get to it, like she's gonna start to catch on to what's going on.
The next scene is because at the end of the funeral, they are like the receiving line, everybody's like coming to give their condolences or whatever. And Bajram says to Destiny that Andres died a hero, which doesn't make any fucking sense if he was mugged by strangers and they don't know what's going on. So Destiny's like, excuse me, what?
What do you mean?
And then she says, I need to be alone with Andreas. And she, just casually brought surgical scissors in her purse with her to the funeral.
The thing is, I think she was planning on doing this regardless
Oh,
if he had.
for sure.
And I think that's why she had the surgical scissors with her.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. But like dumbass Peter didn't catch on to any of that. He's trying to like stop the story, knows she's a psychic, and it's just like, sure, I'll leave her alone with the body that she can read.
Yeah. I mean, like, part of me, I feel like part of me, not part of me, I feel like part of him wants her to find out in a way that isn't him having to tell her to her face. While on the other hand, protecting his own ass. But I feel like
I don't think he wants her to know because as soon as she knows, he's fucked.
yeah.
But
I
also,
don't know.
but also she is too, like emotionally.
Yeah.
So she cuts him open, reaches in, holds onto his intestines to find out how he was killed, and has a vision of the Croat mob killing him. And yeah, then there's a scene where Peter is talking to Bajram and finds out what Bajram said and is like, I have to fix this. And simultaneously, Sophia, Bajram's wife,
Yes.
is with Destiny, who's Destiny's best friend, who was the one who was running the wedding dress thing that in the last episode. And Destiny's basically like, you guys just made a lot of money. Like, I would like to know if there's money coming to me from Andreas's like share of whatever. Like, what do you know about the job? And Sophia says, like, all I know is it has to do with the Croatians in Pottstown, and I don't know anymore, and you didn't hear anything from me. So Destiny, like, looks up the Croatian mob in Pottstown and finds out the restaurant that they hang out with and, like, goes to sit there and,
Kind of wait to see if anything really happens.
yeah. And then while she's there, she sees Milan, and he is wearing Andreas's watch, which I just thought was a fucking low blow.
Yeah.
Um, so she calls Peter and tells him where she is and tells him to bring backup because she found the guy who killed Andreas. And I was like, yo, this bitch is gonna get herself killed.
Mm-hmm.
So then she follows him out to the car, and she steals a knife from the restaurant and follows him out to his car, and she's gonna try to stab him in the parking lot, which like
Which I don't really think it was common sense kicking in for Destiny. I think
no,
it was.
she was 100% emotional. But just note to anyone who would like to get involved with murdering members of the mafia.
You will
Don't
die.
do it without backup on their turf. You will die.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I'm not suggesting you murder anyone, but
Just don't do that.
um,
Also, maybe just don't get involved with any mobs.
so then Peter does show up just in time to stop her, and she sees that Peter and Milan clearly know each other, and she is very upset. And Peter's like, you have to just let it go. And she like breaks down.
And we all know Destiny won't let it go.
She is not Elsa.
No.
And then she goes to, then there's one last scene with Destiny where she is in the police station, and the police are playing the 911 call that tipped them off about Andreas's body and asking her if they recognize the voice,
Mm-hmm.
which she makes no facial expression as to give anything away to the police, but it is very obvious that she does know it's Roman.
And if it involves Roman, it probably also involves Peter.
Well, what's the connection between Andreas and Roman?
Peter.
Peter, yeah.
So she clearly understands now that Peter probably had something to do with this. So obviously, within the coming episodes, there's going to probably be a confrontation that will go down, which only scares me because I don't know how fucking crazy Destiny's going to be about this. Probably very.
Right.
And having to probably have to hear Peter confess to handing him in, it's gonna drive a wedge between the two of them, and it's just gonna fucking suck.
Yeah.
And after this, we go to one of our favorite people in the entire world, Mr. Johan Price, who, as we said, we talked about his first scene already, where his act is together. He is clearly looking a lot better.
Yeah. So Price starts off with the Roman stuff that we already mentioned, and then we see that he is researching the people that are in the picture with Spivak. And the one of the doctors in the picture with Spivak is named Dr. Auslander, which is German for American, really.
Mm-hmm.
But in the recordings, they had been talking about Dr. Deutsch. So he puts it together using that cute little brain of his that is probably the same person with a name change so that he was not found. Mm-hmm. And so he finds out where that man is. This man is clearly actually a human being because he has aged significantly.
Yes.
And
has a lot of shit that's like wrong with him. He's like literally dying right now.
So I don't know how Price got to Michigan and back so fast.
Maybe he's a magical demon flying vampire thingy.
But so he did. He goes to this guy's house. And because this episode all seems to take place in one day, except for the Price stuff seems to, I don't know.
Which, if that's the case, it doesn't make sense for the very end of this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this whole episode is one day. Ooh, sorry. A bug just flew into my ear. Sorry. Ooh.
Price just got some superhuman powers then, I guess.
Or just like a private jet, I guess.
Maybe.
But so he goes to this guy's house and he's like, I need information on this doctor. And the doctor gives Price everything that he knows, which is not really a lot. Because Spivak was very secretive with his work.
And when Price was interrogating him and like really pushing for answers by like literally torturing this like brittle ass old man, I was like, Price, I don't think that this random ass old man is going to know as much as you think he will. But
he knew a lot, and Price was savage. First, he was talking about how, I don't know how you slipped that pun past the OSS and was like calling him out for being a Nazi. Mm-hmm. And then he put together pieces in his brain and figured out that this doctor was one of the Nazi researchers in Birkenau. And one of the things that happened in Birkenau was experiments on children. And one of the important pieces of this puzzle that we get is that in the experiments on children in Birkenau, They removed sexual organs from the children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you remember, Nadia has scars
Right above
right
her.
about where ovaries would be. And we know that Spivak had said something about the eggs in her ovaries because of whatever he had put in Miranda's breast milk, whatever. So, like, and the doctor's like, the kids were going to die. We gave them a better life for the time that they had left. We gave them food. And Price is like, no, you experimented on them just to watch them die. And then he puts poison into the IV of this old man and is like, well, you're going to die anyway.
Yeah, because he's like, well, what is it? What are you doing? He's like, don't worry about it. You're going to die anyway.
Oof.
I was like, ooh, Price got clap back.
I just wrote, oof.
Yeah, he really, like, clapped back.
Yeah. And then, so Price comes back to Hemlock Grove and he goes to Klaus Blinksley. And he's like, this is what I need you to research. Something about aquatic something, I don't know, science words that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Something about something that grew up in some kind of estuary.
Bro, the science talk, I barely can understand half the time.
And so Klaus was like, I can get it to you by the end of the week. And he's like, nope, need it tomorrow.
And mind you, in this scene, Price does the big boy thing, and he's like, by the way, I'm done with these. And turns over his little stimulant caffeine pills that he's been using. And he talks about how he's been doing it so he doesn't experience extreme withdrawal symptoms
And he
and lower.
created his own scientific, like, weaning plan. And Klaus is so cute. He's like, Dr. Price, I'm just very happy that you've chosen to live a clean and sober life.
And like, that's a good thing. It's a really happy thing to see that Price is like, I have, like, he finally, like, realized it took him over half a season, but he finally realized there's important matters here that I can't get my work done if I'm like this.
Yeah.
And I think it's the bigger picture, which, as he told Roman in his, in the first scene, he said, I had some emotional work to deal with. And he cleared his mind, and I think is finally starting to understand himself and feel more comfortable with himself, where I feel like he wasn't able to for a long time. And I'm glad he is. I love Price, and I love seeing him, like, living his best life right now.
Yeah. So now.
On to I honestly, and I will give this, and I don't like to give Olivia any credit, but the best and honestly most interesting one part of this episode and two part of this whole fucking season.
So after the credits, we turn to Olivia laying in her bed. Now, last episode ended with her trying to convince Isaac to stay. And so she's waking up alone in bed, and we're like, huh?
I have a note because of the way she wakes up alone in bed. She wakes up alone in bed with her shoes on and on top of the comforter. And my note was,
Her feet on the pillows and her head on the foot of the bed.
yes, and I was like, did this motherfucker really fuck her upside down on top of the comforters with her shoes on the bed?
Which, to each their own, I guess. Yeah. So she leaves her bedroom, and there is Chongo, the pendant, is sitting on the table. And then she's going to get ready, and she goes to the bathroom, and she's looking at how her cancer is spreading on her skin, and she's not really going to be able to hide it with makeup anymore. And then she comes back out of the bathroom, and the pendant is missing.
Mm-hmm.
So she's freaking out. and like the music that's playing in the background is really great, and she's very confused. And the pendant is hanging on the doorknob of the closet. And I was like, oh fuck, that's where Isaac's body is. But then the doorbell rang and it was Isaac. I was like, oh cool, he's not dead. Great. Great.
And now this next little bit right here, I'm kind of gonna like clump it. I'm not gonna try and like downplay it, but there is a series of events with Isaac that start to form, and he's discussing about how he went down, looked at his boat, then came back and realized that he needed to help someone who really needed his help. This, that, and the other, and their personalities, the way that they're acting in this episode, they're like laughing like teenagers, like. And during one of the scenes, Olivia and Isaac go into their old house.
Yeah, I know that says like, why are they back at the house and why are they acting like children? They're like giggling and like carrying on.
They're giggling at a man peeing, who's peeing in a bathroom, and they're sitting there laughing at it. I'm like, that's, and like, I mean, like, it's kind of nice in a sense because I'm like, maybe this can occupy Olivia to the end of the season, so like she can just like have her own thing and not be after Roman constantly because
Yeah.
she'll have somebody.
So they're like giggling in the house and they're running around. And then like there's a scene where they're in the front hall of her apartment and like they're talking and it's like very incredibly weird sexual innuendo.
Yeah, about it melting in her mouth and shit. I was like,
Yeah. And so, and then, trying to think, I have another note that says, Olivia, what was that? And then, damn, Olivia. Oh, so Olivia is like freaking out because the pendant keeps moving around the apartment still, and she's like yelling at Isaac about taking it and moving it. And she's like starting to like go crazy. So she's like, I need to go clear my head. And she goes to see Annie. And then that's when the whole Annie and Roman thing happens. And then she goes back home and she's like a mess. And Isaac's like, what is going on? Like, something's clearly wrong. You're not acting like yourself. And she's like, I have cancer. I'm dying. It's probably in my brain now. I'm not beautiful anymore. Like, and like shows her skin and how like fucked up it is getting. And then Isaac's like, hey, don't worry, I have these horrible scars too. Which, in hindsight, that's really fucked up. Um, because so he shows like this scar on his arm and these scars on his ribs and everything, and says like that he has 3 broken ribs and his bone was popped out of his arm and everything. But the scar that I noticed that really concerned me was a scar right on the back of his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
and she said, she was like, what happened to the person she was like, who did this to you? And he was like, it was a client. And she was like, well, what did you do to them? Oh, I let them live.
yeah. And so then she goes to like suck him off and he's like, no, 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 ladies first. And they get all sexual and everything. And it's like really intense. I was like, okay then, Isaac. And they wake up in bed and he goes to get in the shower and she goes out and the pendant is playing peekaboo again. So she's like freaking out. And she's like, Isaac.
Now, mind you, while I'm watching this, like, we are in the same shoes as Olivia. We don't know anything extra, anything
No
less.
idea what's going on.
And at this point, I'm thinking like, okay, is Isaac some kind of paranormal thing? Like, is he some paranormal entity that's doing stuff
Right.
to
I was
her?
like, is this like a cursed pendant or some shit?
Yeah.
So then she's like confused and she's calling to him, but he isn't answering. So she goes and looks in the bathroom and the shower is running, but nobody's in the shower. So I'm thinking like he stole the pendant and snuck out.
Mm-hmm.
So then she calls his phone, but it's ringing. And it's ringing in the apartment. So she's following the sound of the ringing. And it's ringing in the closet.
And when Olivia opens up the door, um,
Oh
Isaac,
no, what prompts her to call him and try to find him is that on the TV, she goes and she's watching TV and the housekeeper at the Godfrey house was murdered.
yes.
And
And so,
she's like, whoa, we were just there today. Like, how did that happen? How did we miss somebody coming in to kill him?
and so after she calls the phone and hears the ringing, she opens up the closet door to see Isaac on a hook through his neck.
That
And
scar, that hole in his back is literally where he's hanging on a hook.
and then we see Olivia start to remember. It starts with her talking to herself for every scene that we saw Isaac that he wasn't actually there, and it was her talking to herself. Her actually killing the cleaning house care person at Godfrey,
Show how
and
she killed Isaac the night before.
which were all of the scars that he showed Olivia, all the
Yeah.
broken ribs, the bone poking out, and the hole in the back of the neck.
And it was
Were
honestly like visually so well done.
yes.
So good.
Um, and Olivia finally is like, "Oh my God, this disease is literally causing memory loss, causing her to hallucinate and create." Because I think this virus it takes over her body where she's not in control, so it kind of like puts her head in a completely like who Olivia is in a box in the
Yeah.
back of her mind that she's just living in this box,
Yeah.
but her being, her actual self, is controlled by this tumor, which we've seen it have its effects on other people.
Right.
So,
So she goes to Price and she's sneaking into Price's bedroom at night. My first note is like, where's your cute little sleeping mask, Price? I wasn't wearing it.
I know he's not Elton John no more.
So sad. Um, so she comes and she climbs on top of him in bed and puts her hands around his neck and starts yelling at him about um how she wants him to do what he was going to do for Shelly, and she wants a new body and she doesn't want to live like this, and he's going to do it for her or he's going to end up like that other motherfucker in her closet. And then the camera zooms out and we're looking at it through the window and Price's arms just relax.
Now,
And I wrote, oh my God, did she kill Price too? Because that's where the episode ends.
yeah, yeah. Oh, rough. Mind you, when the episode ends, it also cuts away with some really weird outro music.
So
I was
strange.
like, what?
So strange.
So basically, this episode was really good. It put us in the Olivia timeline at least. It put us in the exact same spot that she was.
Mm-hmm.
Confused, trying to understand what's going on. But she's also trying to make the best out of what she has right now. And no, this is not me having a soft spot for Olivia. But it was really interesting to be not that it was just we're confused because they're telling the story bad, but because it was intentionally put that way because
Right.
this is like the first really awesome twist that we had in an episode. I think
That's what I
all
was
season.
gonna say. Usually when things are happening, I can see them coming.
Mm-hmm.
And like even if one detail is strange, either the twist is so stupid that I don't care, or I already figured it out. And this, there were hints of it. Like, I knew that that pendant hanging on the closet door meant there was something in the closet. And they kept going back to the closet door and she never opened it. And so, like, I knew something was off. But I was genuinely shocked.
Yeah, because it's the first time they've done something where our character's dead, but they're standing right there.
It was.
And
And it's also like, even what Olivia actually looked like and how bad her skin was getting in her mind versus what was really happening, like, crazy.
yeah. Um,
Where was this writing 2 seasons ago?
I know. Where was this writing literally in every episode besides this one? It it sucks because like this landed really well, and I think the rating that it got on IMDb is not really what it should have gotten. Like, yes, I get everyone else's storylines were kind of like mundane and normal to what we've seen in every episode so far, but the Olivia Isaac plot line was just
Oh,
so insane this episode that I think it deserved more credit than I think it actually got. Um,
see,
I
but
mean, like,
interesting because, sorry, I'm looking at Peter Blake, who wrote this episode. I'm looking at the other episodes that he has written,
mhm.
and um, he wrote um, 3 other episodes. He wrote the first episode he wrote was Luna Rhea in episode 3 of um, season 2, which was the one where Shelly came back and killed Christina again for real.
Was that? Did we like that episode?
He did. This is the one where Olivia kills Marie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So again, that was one of the episodes that actually had a twist that I genuinely was shocked by. Um, and then he wrote um, episode 8, Unicorn, which was one of our favorites of season 2.
Hmm.
Um, and then he wrote um, episode 3 of this season, The House in the Woods, which was the one where we find out about um, the boogeyman and the Yormunder and all that stuff.
Yes. Um, all of his episodes seem cohesive, and we've liked them in one way or another.
Yeah.
And I really think the directorial, and like I felt like the director and the writer had like the same mind. It felt like this was like the first episode we had where they were both on the same page. It felt like, and a majority of the time, like yes, the writing is really good, and the directing or cinematography of that episode just kind of lacks in comparison to what was really offered there, and it sucks. This was the first time
That everything felt like it went together.
it felt like the writer was sitting next to the director saying, I wrote it like this, and the director's like, I envision it like this. Okay, let me tweak this. It felt like they actually went back and forth while the scene was happening, and they were communicating with one another to make sure it landed the way they did because of how big of a twist it was. Um, and it just sucks because the rest of the season, the rest of the series that has I think had a lot of potential to do something really cool and to be something really interesting. We're learning about a whole different type of vampire than we're normally used to.
Yeah.
Um, where it's like if we had this really cool universe, I feel like this could have taken off. I feel like they could have had it go for like another season or two if
Maybe
the
just
right.
like stop writing about incest and pedophiles and just write vampire lore, and you wouldn't have such a shit show.
Exactly. Like there can be the confusing family tie stuff without the sex.
Yeah.
There could be a character that cares for Shelley without having it be a grooming incident. Like
You could not have every decent male character turn out to be a shit person within 5 episodes. Because like
exactly.
Andreas was great, but he was cheating on Destiny. Norman was great, except for then he like completely became closed-minded and didn't care about anybody but himself.
Mhm.
Um, Ader was great, but not really. Like
Yeah.
every time they introduce a male character, it's like, just kidding.
The only good male character we've had that's been just great across the board has been Peter.
Not really.
He's the least problematic out of
The
everyone.
least problematic, but he's not perfect.
Yes. But I feel like he's the only thing that came out of the show that, in a male sense, that was perfect compared to every other fucking dish that we've had served to us. Where Norman was just great to begin with, and then like you had said, he just became closed-minded, and it was just hard to see.
And like Price is started off, we didn't trust him at all, and then we started to like him, but then he went crazy. And like Roman is just a mess.
Yeah, Roman's in fucking, I don't even know where he is. I just feel bad for him. But at the same time, I don't, because he consensually had sex with his sister. That's beside the point. But I just think that this series has focused so much on shock value and, intense stories and, making a conversation from their show, that I think that they completely dropped the ball
The
when
thing
it.
is, usually when you have a show that has a lot of conversation about it, like you can find the conversation about it. I don't find people talking about, like when I search the hashtag Hemlock Grove on Twitter, nobody's talking about this show.
And like, I think I know, because me and Mary and Kate know, like who's gonna make it through Hemlock, and who's gonna be walking out of this thing completely fine, or as completely fine as anyone in Hemlock Grove could be. But um, I think it's going to be a very rough ending to watch. I think, and here's the thing: I don't think storyline wise it had a bad rating for the finale. I think it's going to be.
Oh no, I think it's going to be story too. I think it's just going to be a terrible shit show.
You're probably right. But I'm trying. I'm trying to give it something because that episode also has 3 writers on it. And I'm pretty sure it has 3 writers. When we were looking at it earlier, there was either 2 or 3 that wrote it together for the last episode.
I
Because there wasn't just one name there.
I don't think that that's true. Hold on.
Double check for me.
Oh no, there was. You're right. There's 3.
So if there are 3 writers on
Blake
it,
is one of them, and he's not a bad writer.
so it could be the fact that the ending itself isn't bad. It could be who and how many people we could be losing, who we're going to be losing, and it trying to
Well,
have.
maybe the fact that people still on the internet petition for the show to come back when I don't think that that's even remotely possible means that probably people just didn't get it.
Yes, and I think that might be why it has a low rating. Um,
Because, like,
so
no offense, but a lot of people are dumb.
yes, and a lot of people aren't going to sit there and look at it as in depth as you are. My thing is if a series finale makes you cry, makes you feel emotions because you're sad it's over, because you lost characters that you loved, or anything like that. If you are experiencing that, then it did its job. Its job. It did it the right thing. And I want to put a lot of hope in this because I want I if I want to give the show anything, I want it to go out with a bang. I have a feeling there's going to be one part that I'm not going to be happy with at all. And I feel like that is also going to ruin it. And I feel like that's also why the rating could be down. But If the story makes sense and it's wrapped up in a nice, neat bow where I can just put Hemlock Grove on a shelf and never fucking touch it again, then so be it. Um,
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'm hoping for too much here.
Who do you want to punch?
Uh, Ader.
Roman.
Oh. From fucking his sister. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, Roman could get a. But the only thing about Roman, it's like I can't punch him for him making his own decision on that because they both consented to it. But it's
Yeah,
fucking
no,
stupid.
no, I'm gonna punch him for it.
That's fair. I just. And I'm punching Ader for preying on a child. And I feel like saving Grace surprisingly is gonna be Olivia.
Or Price.
Or Price for storyline purposes, not for character development or anything like that. For storyline purposes and her story that we had this week, I can't not.
For making the episode watchable, 100% Olivia. In terms of like the direction of
Like,
the show and as a character, Price.
yes, I will 100% agree with that. Um, so that was Hemlock Grove, season 5, no, season 5, season 3, episode 6, The Pendant, and
Not
I
the
think,
just pendant.
oh, just Pendant. Okay, Pendant. Um, I think this has been our the best episode of Hemlock Grove to date.
I don't know if I would say the best to date, but definitely the best in season 3.
I would put it in the top 3.
I'd have to think about season 1 and 2 because there were some good episodes.
There were, but the twist in this was just so unexpected that I can't not think of
Yeah.
it being the episode. Um, but we'll talk more about that when the season recap happens and we are done with this shit finally once and for all. You have it'll be what 5 episodes left to sit through after this one comes out. And 4 episodes till we get to the recap, and then
Episodes, a recap, and then our final closing thoughts on the show as a whole and what we gained from it.
so you got 6 weeks left of us still talking about Hemlock Grove.
Good luck.
So
Well,
have fun.
6-ish, because then there's our blooper compilation episodes that are coming, so it'll be 6-ish weeks left.
Yeah, but those will probably not have so much to do with the show and more just like funny haha moments.
Well, except for the Mother's Day episode.
Yeah, but those are also funny haha.
True. Well, you can follow us and give us feedback on Instagram or Twitter at deathandaliens.com or email at deathandaliens or email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com.
There you go. And you can follow me on Instagram at monica.lynn_ and on Twitter at mon_lynn_.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EMKAY_superstar.
And that will wrap it up for this week of Death and Aliens. We hope to see you back next week and let us know your thoughts and opinions on how you felt about this week's episodes on, like we said, our Instagram pages or anything like that. And we will see you next week for more of this.